If you think about it, most of the people that get A's in school end up working for people that get C's. School teaches us that failing is the worst thing that can happen to you. I don't think that aligns with reality well, so let's look at reality. Failing is a necessary part of success. If you're not willing to take a risk and fail, how are you ever going to achieve the levels of success necessary? So good morning. Good to be with you guys this morning. In my town, we have a zoo. And in this zoo, we have a lion exhibit and tigers and bears, oh my. But it's the lion exhibit that caught my attention. And I remember the last time that I was at that zoo, I was observing the lions' behavior, and they were pacing back and forth in their enclosure, around the perimeter, pacing back and forth. And I was thinking to myself, what's that behavior? Why are they doing that? Do they think that they're going to discover a way out or see something on the next lap they didn't see on the last lap? So it caught my attention, and it made me think of an analogy that I'd like to share with you all this morning. A lion raised in captivity, not knowing the wild, all of its experience come from captivity. If all of its experiences come from captivity, and that would be its natural habitat to him, then why do they lock the cage? They lock the cage because even though his experiences don't validate it, his instincts tell him that there's more out there. And I think the reason that so many of us are frustrated in life, whether it's our finances or our job, maybe a relationship, is because we feel limited by that cage. And some of us might not have the words for it or the background or even the training, but we know that we belong out there. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about what that cage looks like for me. And I've shared this before, but I want to kind of set where we were and explain that I was a single father with 2 young children trying to make my way through FI. And I'm wondering if anyone in here can relate to that. Rant, rant, rant. 6 a.m. Alarm clock goes off. It's how my day starts every day. I get up at 6 a.m., I get myself ready, I make myself a little breakfast, I have a cup of coffee, I brush my teeth, shower, whatever, my normal morning routine. 7 o'clock, I wake up the kids, get them up, get them dressed. Dad, the dog puked on the carpet. Okay, I'll clean it up. Go put clothes on. All right, clean up the puke, go check on them. Why are you naked? Well, my Legos were in the way of my clothes, but look, I built a castle. Great. We need to get you to school. So I got one kid's teeth brushed. One kid had combed hair. One of them had dental floss hanging out of their mouth. Their backpacks are spilling homework on the way into the car. And I'm trying to tie their shoes as we're walking. Finally get them in the car, drop them off at daycare at 7:15, 7:30. And then I have to get myself to work. But luckily I've watched enough episodes of The Fast and the Furious to make it there on time. 8 o'clock, I get to work. Okay, let's be honest, I'm not Paul Walker. It was 8:05. And I feel a little guilty, that I got there late, and I'm trying to make up for it through the day. I'm trying to work extra hard. I'm hoping nobody notices. I'm ducking my head when I come into the office. I sit down at my computer, I plug myself in, put my head down, and I work all day. About 5:05, I'm starting to think, okay, it's time for me to get out of here. But that's when Boss Man comes by with a fresh TPS report. He tells me he's taken off for the day, but didn't get his TPS reports filed, so it's up to me. So I know I have to stay extra late that day, and I have to get that done. And I know that 5:31 is the absolute last minute that I can leave work, make it to daycare, and not have to pay exorbitant, painful, economically depleting late fees per minute that I'm late to daycare. So I get it done. I wave goodbye to my coworkers. That's me in the front, waving goodbye to my coworkers. They're a lively bunch. Just imagine being able to go to cocktail hours with these guys. So I say goodbye and I peel out of there, trying to apply my best Fast and the Furious principles again. Ring, ring, ring. Again, my alarm goes off. Thinking, how did this happen? What's going on? Is it a malfunction? The reality is I fell asleep. I fell asleep in my business clothes on top of my covers, and the next day has already started. Can anyone relate to that feeling? I felt trapped. I felt like No matter how many steps forward I took, it was 2 steps back. Like I just couldn't make progress. Have you ever felt like you're not where you want to be? And I don't mean like here at CampFI, I mean like in life. Like maybe you're just not making the progress that you think you should be making or that you see other people make. That's how I felt. It felt a lot like, for me, it felt a lot like that lion that was pacing back and forth in the cage. Like knowing that there's more out there, but you don't know what out there looks like because you're stuck in your paces. Felt like an endless loop that I was just living day and day and day. A loop where I felt half dead, and I probably only needed half a brain cell to do this routine that I seemed to be built to do and repeat on an endless cycle. I remember thinking, where did I go wrong? What decision did I make to end up in this place? I went to school, I got a good education, I thought I got a good job, and here I felt completely trapped by my routine. I think if you don't live with intentions, people that have intentions will tell you how you ought to live. And it won't be for your benefit, it will be for their benefit. I think the program is built to just go on autopilot, for you to sit down, for you to keep your head down, for you to just do your work harder, and work longer hours. I started seeing the Matrix for what the Matrix was. I think that most people do the bare minimum amount of work that they can to be able to keep their job. And most corporations pay the bare minimum amount of money to make sure that you don't quit. So where do we go to change this system? How does this all happen? School teaches us that failing is the worst thing that can happen to you. It teaches us that if you don't work on your own, that's cheating. Or it really teaches us not to make mistakes. Everyone in school seems to be afraid of making a mistake. That would lower your grade. There's only one right answer. And it also teaches us that your teacher is the only one that knows that one right answer. Well, I don't think that aligns with reality well, so let's look at reality. Failing is a necessary part of success. If you're not willing to take a risk and fail, how are you ever going to achieve the levels of success necessary? 2, collaboration. Collaboration is necessary for success in the real world, right? Leveraging other people's time, leveraging other people's money. The other thing that we learn is that mistakes actually have the highest correlation with success. The most successful people have made the most mistakes in life. Your teacher isn't the only one with the right answer. It turns out paying customers are the ones with the right answer. It's not your boss, it's paying customers. And I say paying because there's a lot of people that really like great ideas, but when you ask them for money, it's like, oh no, thanks, I'm good. The other important thing for us to understand is not only how we get there, but it's what we invest in. It's how we use the capital that we are accumulating along the way. Is there any class of asset that you guys could shout out or? Okay, so let's see. So equities would be the stocks and bonds businesses. There we go. Okay, so that's entrepreneurship, small business. And the third we already said was real estate. So good job. You guys graduate. You passed the Jonathan test. Now I thought I was a wise guy, right? Because I had a 4th class, a class that I call alternatives. And I was already making a lot of money here. So this is things like collectible cards, fine art, NFTs, crypto, underwriting loans, just things that don't fit into those other 3 categories. So I thought I was wise. And then I watched a video by somebody far wiser than me. Warren Buffett said the most important asset class of all wasn't one that was even on my list. Invest in yourself. And Warren Buffett went on to explain why investing in yourself is the best investment that you'll ever make in your entire life. So that might be education, that might be coaching, that might be self-improvement. So I'm going to have to go back to my 4 asset class article and definitely update that. So we talked about education, income, investments. Income is a very important part of this equation, right? That's the offense. There are 3 types according to Robert Kiyosaki. Earned income is the highest taxed income. There's portfolio income, which would be capital gains. That's moderately taxed. And then there's something called passive or residual income. I use a different term. I say front-loaded because I've never found anything that's truly passive. There's something that you do the work on up front and collect the royalties over time, but it's certainly not passive. Taxes are the defense. And I think financial intelligence is not just how much you make, but how much you can keep. So we'll talk about taxes. How many pages are there in the US tax code? Does anyone know? 4,000. Okay. 75,000. Somebody is on top of it. Somebody's been reading their latest study. 75,000 pages, including all the regulations. That's a lot of pages. Guess how many of those pages does the United States actually retain the right to levy power and levy tax money from the people? In other words, how many of those pages does the government talk about how they get taxes from us? It's more than zero. They do tax us. There's a law there. It's only 30 pages. 30 pages out of 75,000 is 0.04%. Leaves you with one question, doesn't it? What's in the other 74,970 pages of the tax code? What's in those pages is what the government wants us to do, the people. They want us to follow certain habits and do certain things, and the only way that they can encourage us to do that is to give a tax incentive for us to do that. So they might give you a tax incentive to buy a house or to have kids. It's behaviors that they want to see you do. But I've heard time and time again that people will say, wait a second, you don't pay taxes? You're a crook. You're a criminal. I have to pay for your kids' education and the roads. I see it differently. I just see it as I'm willing to read some pages to learn how to keep that money on my side of the ledger because I care about defense and I truly believe that financial intelligence is not how much you earn, but how much you keep. And that's how I've been able to keep my tax rate down. I've kept it down from below 9% since 2015. So I've been single digit tax bracket. And it's not because I'm poor or I'm lazy or I don't make money. It's because I'm willing to read that tax code and play a strong defense. I wouldn't be willing to admit that if I was doing anything illegal, right? In fact, one year I actually got a tax credit, which means my tax rate was negative 1% and the government paid me to be a citizen of the country. So this is a curve that really represents my happiness, which would be this black line here. Let's see if I can do this. I'm sorry, that's my income. And this red line is happiness, relative happiness. So if you watch the black line kind of over time, what's happening there is I'm continuing to work. I'm running the FI race and I'm slowly making more money. I'm getting some, promotions along the way. And then all of a sudden we get to this cliff right here. That's where I got laid off. So I had FU money at this time. And I ended up taking what some would call a mini retirement. It wasn't voluntary, but it was forced on me. But having that safety net and that FU money, it wasn't a race to get a new job. I had freedom, I had comfort, and I started to, instead of like freaking out about where my next paycheck was going to come from, and eventually slowly and comfortably find a far better job than the one that I left because I didn't have that pressure of where's the next paycheck coming from. So that ended up lasting 6 months. This is this time period here where my income was a little lower. Then I go back to work because I have a mission and I have a plan. I'm back on the FI path. I'm making a little more money. That's when the worst thing in my career happened to me. Right here, I got a promotion. What was really happening is we were going through this little thing called COVID, and my department was getting liquidated and they were about to lay everybody off. And I remember what that felt like. So I was like, oh no. Fortunately, a manager from another department had approached me and said, look, we're trying to hire people. We're way behind. I want you to come work for me. Come work in my department. You'll have a job through this COVID thing. And I'm also leaving in the next few months. So you'd be in contention to maybe take my management role. That all sounded beautiful. So I did it. I took the promotion. I tried to do it. It was horrible. The average person in that department didn't even last 12 months. The workload was unreasonable. They didn't have it appropriately staffed. And it was the worst position that I'd ever held in corporate America. I did what any other reasonable person would do in this scenario. I went office space. And I fired myself, but I didn't tell anyone I fired myself. Instead of working the 55 hours it would take to do the work, I only worked 40. Instead of getting a vaccine that I was mandated to get, I hadn't researched it and I wasn't comfortable with it yet. I just didn't do it. Instead of giving the right answers that are politically or that follow the office politics, I gave real answers. I said, I don't think we should give the TPS report to Johnston. He failed on the last 3. Why is he going to do this one right? When people asked me, could I get something done, file a TPS report by Wednesday? I said, no, actually, my workload is pretty programmed out for the next 2 months. I could get it in 3 months. No, you don't understand. I need that by Wednesday. I'm like, well, my workload is pretty stiff, so I don't think I can get it done. And with that attitude, after a little while, you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing. I'm dumbfounded. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I was like, surely you're going to fire me, right? So it didn't happen. And I ended up staying there months longer than I thought I would. So I started, making sure that my major medical checkups were done. I got some dental work done that I'd been putting off. I already had FU money at this point. I already had a 9-month emergency fund. I did a cash out refi on my house. I locked in all the things and checked all the boxes that I thought I would need to check to prepare myself for what was to come. That was my next mini retirement, where I left corporate America last February. And I thought that I was just going to take another mini sabbatical, 6 months. I did a bunch of travel this time that I wanted to do the last time, and thought I'd be right back into corporate America, finding another better job. But something happened. In that 6 months, I started to recognize something, and you can see it right here on my happiness curve. That's this red line right here. There was a relationship between these two curves that surprised me. And if you look at them, what you see is that, wouldn't you expect happiness to go up when income goes up? But what I was experiencing was that happiness went up when I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do with my time. It's far different than what I expected. And it all brought me to a conversation that I had a few years back on the patio of the Smithsonian with somebody who's actually here this week. And I was telling her my plan, and remember back to how I was living and that cycle, that Groundhog Day cycle that I was going through. She knew that about me. And I was explaining my perfect FI path, right? I only have 7 more years to retirement. I hit my FI number. I moved to Thailand, marry a beautiful Eastern girl, and I get healthcare for $35 a month. This is perfect. My kids would be graduated by then. Everything works out mathematically. She said 3 words that echoed in my head ever since that day. No, no, no. Because what she realized was that I wasn't living in a happy way. I lived what was mathematically correct, but what wasn't life correct. So I started working on my side hustle again. And what I realized was that if you think about somebody dancing a dance, right, in the arts, the goal isn't to get to the opposite side of the room as fast as you can. It's about the body movements. It's about the cadence of their steps. It's about the tempo and the response to the music. You wouldn't want to go to a dance where it's a mad dash across the stage and the first one to get there wins and you get a medal for it. That wouldn't be a dance, that would be a race. Songs are sung in the same way. Imagine going to a concert where they're just trying to get to the end as quickly as they can. The whole thing would be just one crashing note and then boom, the end is there. You got your money, go home now. Very time efficient, but that's not what you appreciate about a song. You want to hear the pauses. You want to hear the notes. You want to hear the melody. All those things unpack. And if it's not done in the right time, it's not the same presentation. And in FIRE, I think that you need to slow down enough to not miss the songs of life. This led me to something called ikigai, which is a Japanese word that means a sense of purpose or something to live for. That ikigai for me looks like a Venn diagram of where passion, income, and enjoyment overlap each other. And everything that is in that middle space where they all overlap is what I would call my lifestyle design. And I think this is what it takes to be the lion and not the flea. And again, this is hard to read. So what that meant for me was that I was location independent, that I could work remotely, that what I was doing with work energized me, not depleted my energy. The puppy, not the vampire. The puppies bring energy to the room. The vampires suck energy from the room. We talked about it last night. It helps. And I wanted to help others succeed in life. That's what brings true value to me. I wanted to do things that were front-loaded work, in other words, passive income. And I wanted cumulative income. When you go to work for a W-2 job, you make progressively slow little bits more, but it's not cumulative. When you're an entrepreneur, you unlock something called cumulative income, and that growth curve is a lot more appetizing. I knew that I wanted to work for myself with my own hours and my own values. So I came up with this mission statement that says, I want to work in an environment that fits my values, on meaningful work that I'm truly passionate about, with people that I care, trust, and want to spend my time with. That really helped me realize that we all have the same common destination in life, and it's not who gets there, and that destination is the grave. Getting there faster doesn't make you the winner. Getting there richer doesn't make you any better. So don't be in a hurry in life to finish the dance, and don't be in a hurry in life to sing the song, but really enjoy the journey, not the destination.